I'm on my own, broken alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found, but you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars.
Welcome back, everybody, to the SEL. Rocket League has concluded for this week, and that's where Valorant steps into the foray. My name's Infernosis, as you can see down below, and off to my side is my good friend Mick, and we've got some great Valorant action stepping into the SEL this week.
We most definitely do. It's upper bracket time, baby. We're going ahead. We're already halfway through. We're almost reaching the halfway point when it comes on the entirety of the bracket to deal with in the playoffs. And it shows that a grand finale is going to be inevitable for us here. But already, we're going to see what teams are really making their strides, what we're kind of working with thus far. And as you can already tell, not only the map bands below, we're going to ignore the maps for a second. Look at those tiny little logos there in the top left. And you'll see the two teams we're dealing with. These are the likes of Niner Esports and Louisiana Tech Blue. Both teams of which I would say have very well deserved their spots here in the upper bracket, sitting at 5-0 respectively for the regular season out of the Niners, and their straight run they had there near flawlessly. And even then, Louisiana Tech Blue sitting at the likes of 4-1. So these are teams that it's not like they found themselves some odd areas to squeeze by and get themselves in the upper bracket. They've earned their way through here, and I think this should be a banger of a matchup.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting day, to say the least, because I believe we get to see the loser of this matchup again in our second matchup of the day. I think we have a schedule you can toss up here to show what's going on throughout the day here today. It is Niner Esports, like you mentioned, against LA Tech Blue. A very good matchup to start things off here in our winner's bracket. But when things go awry for the loser here in this series, they'll drop down to face UKY Blue, which has been guaranteed to this point, and they'll be facing off against the loser of match one, which will be obviously either Niner Esports or LA Tech Blue. And if you're basing presumptions off of that, it's kind of hard to say here, Dallas, because you talk about statistics, you go, oh, well, we break down what's happened before. They're fairly evenly matched. Niner Esports had to beat UTK Gray to get here. Louisiana Tech had to beat UGA Red of all teams, which is a very good team to get here as well. And UKY Blue lost to UF Orange. They lost to Florida in that first round to drop down into the losers bracket, where they had to beat Texas Tech in the first round of the losers bracket. And you can see all that happening right in front of your screen here, all the matchups I've highlighted. And like you said, we're getting closer and closer into the grand finals, into the end of playoffs. And honestly, one of these two teams could be the team to make it there, assuming they win out here today.
Yeah, but even if they don't, I mean, you got to look at that bottom bracket. There's a double chance for anybody who really goes to this thing. So it's not kind of a one and done situation. You do see some qualifiers there because obviously the lower bracket is what we have to turn our attention to. And that's going to go ahead and lead us to that second match of the day. As you see at the very bottom of that bracket, where you see of University of Kentucky already sitting kind of ready for their opposition and going to be watching this match respectively. But I mean, even then, sitting in the lower bracket, it feels like it's kind of a little an upper hand here for Kentucky if they do kind of want to go ahead and keep their eyes out for this matchup. Kind of get a better sense of who they're up against, because quite frankly, I'm not going to go ahead and just kind of toss them aside. They've reached this point so far. They have a lot of potential in their team just because maybe they've reached their form, kind of coming to the conclusion of the season. But sitting at 1-4 over the regular season, that's a really tough break. So they have obviously hit themselves a massive stride. They've had a massive turnaround, and they've really gotten their head in the game to kind of go ahead and get themselves this far in the first place.
Yeah, if you struggle in the mainstay season, it's not necessarily over, right? The team has room for improvement. It's a great reason why we have and created this bracket system and our entire scheduling system so far for the SEL this season for Valorant. And I mean, things can change. We were listening to input and things like that, but it does allow teams that struggle early to make the, return, to use that as a feeder, to use that as a practice almost heading into the playoffs, heading into the first pool to make playoffs, I should say, and then into playoffs. And I think that's going to be a good proving ground, a good, upset story for a lot of teams, because much like for Rocket League, where they had titans of teams drop into the losers bracket, shocking upsets in the first round of the winner's side, we kind of had the same thing here of really good teams getting dropped down, mostly, teams we expected to fall down in the loser side of the bracket, or lower playoffs, I should say. But we also did see, one or two teams that kind of snuck through and like, oh my goodness, how did they get put here? Teams only to start watching out, especially as we head into the round two of the lower playoffs, where, good teams are really going to start dropping down to the lower section.
Yeah, speaking of that lower section, I mean, UGA Red even talked about how good of a team they were, and that's kind of my eyes there in that lower bracket. It's the one team where I'm like, man, they must have got handed a very, very tough initial matchup in that side, that playoff bracket, considering that knowing they were one of the leaders of their groups, they were sitting at one of those higher ends. So to know that they're kind of at that point, things aren't looking all that great there. It is what it is, but even then more so, we got to kind of pay more attention to this going on right now. With the first map being bind going underway, you can already see the agent selection start to pan out a little bit. Not really too many surprises here. We're seeing a lot of teams go ahead and just find that Raise and Sky for the initiating side. the Viper and the Brim for the post plant plays, and then even then better yet, a Chamber just going to hold it and kind of locking things down. I know that everybody, at least if you're a big Valorant fan, have been watching that show match going on today between Sentinels and G2, and we literally saw Bind inside that matchup. Obviously, the 10s and bringing out that Yoru once more, but I don't think anybody's really too comfortable with it. We have seen it actually here in the SCL. I don't know if it was Kennesar who brought it out. I want to say it was one of those kind of upper end teams that kind of had that leniency and had that accustomed ability when it comes around to these maps that you already know. But Bind, it has a tried and true formula at this point. You really can't break it down too much unless you have somebody who's just so comfortable on something else that you can kind of make those composition switches. Because even then, we talk about the rain and the sky when it comes around to Paper Rex. When we talk about even then the Gecko being brought in as well, a lot of differences that are being brought to this map, but not really refreshing enough or really fitting those same play styles of the likes of pub game or what we see in college scrimmage areas, because, well, they're not paid tens of thousands of dollars or even millions to do what they got to do.
We're currently changing the enemy highlight color real fast. I believe that'll get changed up pretty quickly.
My brother is colorblind.
My colorblindness. This is going all awry. We'll get it figured out. It's all good. I think it just got switched right there. LA Tech Blue on the attack, playing a very slow pistol round. A lot of teams will just rush in through A, short and showers, but it looks to be a B-sided approach. And the octagon play for your Sky has already been fallen back, which is a good decision for a lot of teams, but they will still have to step out of the gates and in through that toxic screen that's been relayed out by Niner Esports more specifically. Lazy round the corner in through LB. Sika had the first shot opportunity, but doesn't get it, and Knight gets 2 head taps, but doesn't kill anyone. Opening up the opportunity for the rest of the team. It's precise. 3 kills, couldn't find the 4th before being forced to reload, and Lazy's in a 1v2. Limited HP, and it will be their undoing. LA Tech falls short in the first pistol round.
Well, sure, we saw Precise being the sinker there. The hook in the line was obvious by the rest of the team there. The Sky didn't have enough time for the regroup, probably didn't even have a purchase in the meantime, and everybody was sitting at a one-shot threshold there for the kill. So, obviously, good execution there from the likes of one player to make sure to follow up that that's just not damage left open-ended. And even then, able to go ahead and result in a round off the back of it as well. So, Niners should go ahead and find themselves a pretty strong opening here, I'd say. And with the Guardian being switched up as well, going ahead and being passed off to Sika, I'm kind of curious to see what this looks like. You're handing off your bottom right to a Guardian, but maybe it's a round number 1. You can't really go ahead and marshal the guy. They obviously have a lot of confidence because you're not going to give it to Chamber. You're not going to get the Precise because he's overextending and looking to go into this kind of showers and see if he can pick off some more players there, but you don't want to hand over a gun in the meantime.
Play in on the A side, very dangerous for a lot of attacking teams, but they've come up big so far in this round. A solid first blood in a position when you're not really expecting a round win may start to open up options and viabilities elsewhere. And with that spike initially towards showers, relocate that sucker on over to the rest of the team through short. Maybe you still transition up through short here, Dallas, and step through TP instead. And I think that's what they're going to do. That's what the toxic screen is laid out for. But 3 players in U-Haul, all with Spectres, swing out and get a 2-for-1 trade to even the odds up against LA Tech now in a 3 versus 3. Spike still in a horrible position with no real clue about where they want to take it. They'll still teasing to the A side because look at the chamber of J Crew. They've cleared out the whole back of site. Solus may realize J Crew is here, but is it enough here with the headhunter? It is with the flank, and it forces Anishar out of position.
And even then, man, this is really what it comes down to. You talk about the rotation of TP, but when you have a player already flipped into the back lines, you don't really make too much of a move there. You got to manipulate that fact, kind of hopefully somebody else will alleviate that attention somewhere else around the map, and that's exactly what was done there. So LA Tech to go ahead and look for themselves a stance for 1-1 when it comes to this game. It's very, very feasible considering what's going on here. They knew the player was already working towards U-Haul. The only thing you're doing is, quite frankly, checking that backside, kind of holding that thing down, looking for the post plant, because Sika is now making that rotation, has let their presence be known, and you just cannot peek this guy. You're obviously going to have Seeker on the protection. That Guardian's going to find the 1 shots necessary and do a bunch of damage. But once again, comes down to J Crew. The 1v1 just isn't settled. It's Niner Esports making sure to close out that second, but not without a Bryce.
Sika was just, I think, maybe a centimeter off there, Dallas. And in terms of the agent's body, not even the aim that was coming out from the chamber of J Crew, they were centimeters off on the torso from having their head lopped off their shoulders with that headhunter. An exceptionally close attempt, but Niner Esports will hold on in round 2 to come away with the victory, but at such a cost in round 2, which should have been a freebie rounder. Theoretically, an easier round for your position with those Spectres, with guns being bought up against theoretically only classics for the side of LA Tech. that is a not solid foot to work in from. And now stepping forward in this next round, you have to dedicate and start to get aggressive. You can see that 2 players out through hookah. They're testing the limits early, but with 3 players really at the gates, like we mentioned last round, not much so as through U-Haul as we saw, but still ready to peek that if needed. LA Tech know they can just play the distance and use those rifles to get kills, and JQ does it for the first blood of this round.
Just starting off strong here. I mean, already you got to look for those initial bloods. We talked about LA Tech and what they have to bring to the round, and already able to go ahead and surmount a couple of picks. You're going to see Knight go ahead and grab them as well, and even exchange with that Guardian passed off from Seekus. So big stances here, well played trades. Make sure to kind of keep your possessions inside this game. That Guardian is going to be the only thing to really trump these players too much, because I mean, otherwise you only have the chamber, and still the fact it's over there allocated towards that B site, you have all your weaponry just go ahead and being cached on that side of the map. It's kind of awkward in its own right, but hey, let's see what happens next, because that sheriff, it could have its own weight. Problem is you actually have to tow it. You have to make sure it has some kind of effect, because I think honestly that Frenzy, it doesn't have the range for it, but a Headhunter sure as heck does. Precise now being back on site, and the Guardian also being present as well. This could be the opportunity you look for these kills to be made, but even then, looking at this basement, you can't really find too much here. You can't find these pincer maneuvers. You can't look for these executions, but quite frankly, Knight doesn't need a Vandal already in hand, able to go ahead and surmount for 1 kill. You barely have any health. I mean, hey, you've made things a heck of a lot expensive. A lot of the players are there. You need to swing and help your teammate, but the opportunity isn't there. And quite frankly, you just can't close it out with that. But man, have you cut down a lot of the resources. Once again, only 2 players remaining. It's looking good for them to get themselves on the board.
Interesting, I would say, disposition so far in this series for the way these rounds have panned out. Obviously, the first round was exceptionally close in the first place. Knight getting those 2 or 3 players tapped with headshots opened up for the rest of the team. Precise didn't even need to hit headshots to clear those players out. It was still an exceptionally close round. It came down to a 2v1 in the final few moments. Round 2 goes the same way, way too close for the margin despite the success in round 1, a 1v1 to end it. And you'd expect LA Tech's rifle round to go much better considering the result that came out so dominantly in their favor despite the loss going in round 2, and they gave up too much as well. LA Tech bled so much space. They got cut off by so many great opportunities created by Niner Esports using the architecture here on the objective to their favor. And LA Tech need to start thinking twice about which objective to pursue, because the A side has obviously proven that Niner Esports can defend and contend. They need to start testing the limits through B, start testing the TPs, the attempts to rotate for Niner Esports from the A side to the B side, and start to find the weakest links. So the final 6-7 round stretch here for this half Dallas is way more dominantly in their favor than maybe the first 5 or 6.
The wild thing to me here is going ahead, not really having too much of an idea what's going over towards that A site and still looking to execute towards B. You had a little bit of a hunch of what was going on there, and it was a good read, but every player is kind of allocated over towards showers, which is wild to me, knowing that even then, you were hitting main. You didn't really have an idea what was going on there. Like, it was a little bit too quiet to really make a call off the back. An operator shot missed. You know you're just trying to buy time to take it to the swing, but in the meantime, you're having an isolation match there going inside the octagon. So big fighting plays going on there, but what else does it result in?
left.
Well, we got to see whether or not it actually finds a side off the back of it, because that's what you're lacking. Quite frankly, with only 20 seconds, you don't have another option.
With the plant going down now on site, Jurassic towards Cubby. Will hold this position for as long as they feasibly can, but it's Jeeton to steal the glory, stepping up on top of Tube, taking down 2 before hopping on down, and Niner Esports have realized this is a failure of an opportunity. They will fall back and away. They do not want to deal with LA Tech's hold on this site. They'll save, like you said, these weapons and this round as a whole, as we will tie things up 2-2. And LA Tech, like I said, testing the options in an opposing side, have found way more success, and very much so more dominantly than they have at any other point so far in this series in the first 3 rounds. And I think we're going to continuously see them pound the rock until something changes from Niner Esports, because the way it is right now, I don't think any defensive change for Niner Esports is going to warrant success on that B site. They need to change the agents there. They need to change their positions.
Crazy thing for me is how many smokes you still have remaining, and even with the sky and those guiding lights available, why you don't just charge spawn and see if you can go ahead and pick her up, that operator, just get it out of the game, because it's such an expensive piece of equipment and already just being ripped out. Precise doesn't even have enough for the actual full armor on this round, so you're going to see somewhat of an awkward buy come up for the rest of the team to try to contemplate that. So already, considering that we're seeing the likes of, Niner Esports, they're going to get a little confused in their purchases and their stances and their setups. I think they have a little bit of working to do, but hey, it's not going to be all that much. You're still looking pretty hot. You still have at least a tie game on your hands. The thing is, you're riding off the back of those pistol rounds, and even then, you're hoping for at least a couple kills. But with no information given initially because of that missed guiding light, You don't get the telltale to let you know that, okay, somebody's here pushing us. Instead, it's, you know, gunners meeting you face to face.
Zika still playing with their tube, trying to use the Sheriff to get some damage out in towards Hookah. They're expecting the play in from LA Tech, and noise has been made. But this is where the engagement comes full force. Lazy out with a boost pack, gets away with one. Anishar, though, caught them off guard, forcing Sarka to get that refrag, and the plant will go down. 2 players inside of Octagon, and you have no true clue about how to flank in from this position, as you only have 1 player on the slow route, and they do not want to swing this, Dallas. Look at the patience coming out from the chamber of Precise. They have the better weapon. They don't want to lose it. They'll gladly hold it if they must. And the other 2 teams, the other side, can play for exit frag. So you may not win this round, but you can make this round unbelievably costly for LA Tech to make up for the losses of life you faced in the failure to get kills in the round prior. Jeeton good for 1. Zico with a Sheriff shot, but that takes the exit frag potential for the side of Niner Esports off the board, and they'll get away with just the operator here in this round.
That's the problem with these operators we do see sometimes, because it's so expensive. You're seeing these players go ahead once again, not put their lives on the line to actually look for these trades and put themselves in a potential where they can actually make an impact in the round. So already, I'm not going to go ahead and start sleeping on Precise here. Can definitely have an impact here in the game. Just has to find at least one of those kind of 50-50 wins where they actually push your site. You get the initial first blood. But as it stands so far, you're just not really seeing that work out too much. You're not lining up towards B long to kind of get in that sniper area of the map, going in and pressuring those players to actually funnel themselves to the inside. Because once again, if you look at the A site, you have players allocated to showers every single round. You don't really need to watch too much towards the A site. You're kind of playing retake from that point. You're waiting for the rotation to come through, or even better yet, a TP player. You go for a full retake on the attacking side of the map. But as it stands so far, it's a little bit awkward. But hey, we talk about the cash out. There it is. First blooded away for Precise. Finally has an impact here inside these rounds, and in a good way as well. But you got to make sure to do a little bit more so Anishar can go ahead and get the hands on maybe one of those guns dropped.
Precise will initially have the angle to try to work in from the back of sight. You'd expect them to be up in heaven, but when you know they're going to lay down smokes, Brim's dominance cannot be felt up against. You'll need to play a little bit smarter, and changing positions is a great way to do so. But if we see LA Tech actually engage on the A side, Dallas, what are the 2 smokes you expect to see immediately once they go for it? Placing between, right next to Pinch, and right in between Chin and Truck. Great placements. Thank you very much for catching that at the right moment. And this is where LA Tech finally say, we are engaging onto site, but we have to fall back. We lost our showers player. There's not just 1 there, there's 2. And we don't have the safe space to go for this plant. We need kills and fast, and they'll get it. Do they know there's 2 though? They still feel hesitant. They're still aiming off towards showers. It's too much of an unknown factor, so they'll fall back, use the Seekers, it seems, for Niner Esports to realize they have made that transition and are rotating, and cut off Jeeton, who tries to go through Defender's spawn. No, it's still feasible for the side of LA Tech with J Crew taking down Sika.
Even then, I mean, look at these splits. We're seeing a lot of patience from both these teams that you made, but probably it's a little bit of a double-edged sword considering how we're seeing these retakes going away. We're seeing how most of these plays of these rounds are kind of going away. But speaking in a scenario like this, it all comes down to patience, just prolonging that timer with the Brimstone in the back of the map, an Incendiary, and an Orbital Barrage to go ahead and go down. You're going to see that timer just take it away and going ahead and put Precise in a position, which now with the Vandal in hand rather than Operator, you can find a lot more feasibility to kind of look for these picks, but I mean, you're just not going to find that spike with how much time is just being killed.
Precise knows that the time is limited, and they know their life is essentially all for naught. And J Crew will ensure that final blood in the round. LA Tech will continue the dominant spree they've gained for themselves. And I mean, honestly, Dallas, can we even call round 2 a true win for Niner Esports? It feels and has looked like LA Tech have come away with now 5 wins in a row. They could make that a 6th win in a row. Big quotations around that, because they dominated in round 2. It came down to a 1v1. They buried the chances for Niner Esports. The Eco still hasn't even felt comfortable since that point, because they over-enforced with an operator in a big round, and then they were forced to save that twice, and the team had to match with that person, because you can't just have a glass cannon. You don't like the comfortability of that, and you're now forced into a spot where Niner Esports are in another Thrifty, nothing to work with it except the tour de force, and LA Tech knows it's on A, so they'll move over to B, where it's a lot safer.
I mean, it might be enough for him, though. I mean, you have to kind of consider the placements here and even play a little bit more aggressively, I'd say. We're seeing for the map of Bind, there's a lot of pace, a lot of slower plays going on. Just rush your guys, quite frankly. Look to bring these fights early. Look to contest sites. Look to contest the map a little more so on the defensive side of the map, because already we're seeing these post-plants go so darn slow because there's so many players alive by the end of them that we don't see Niners really wanting to take these fights too much, considering that it felt like 2 of those rounds at least Precise went ahead and saved up. Not only what the numbers you were counting in terms of the man count on the top of your screen, but you're adding one more in terms of advantage because, well, Niner Esports had a kind of a player just not present. So seeing how things are going underway, you're not going to stress too much about this round, but you do need to at least tap it. We're seeing these bind retakes being a little bit slower. Things can't really get done too much just because you know how many controllers are alive. You have to at least try. You at least have to put your name on the map and give something a shot. And quite frankly, speaking of shots, we're seeing a lot of them being hit. Anashar now has a share. Didn't really get hands on that Vandal. That's a little unfortunate, but it may not even matter in the slide. It's already with no bounce pad to go out. Go ahead and knock the player to the side. That's your saving grace here for LA Tech to secure themselves another in a row. So it's a big stance for them to go ahead and kind of accumulate these rounds back to back. But knowing that even then, I mean, once again, we're going back to the operator, a little bit concerning, but I mean, still, once again, for your top frag, that's the only redeeming quality you have here. With 2 ultimates on the Niners side as well, they got to figure out how to really utilize these things to lock down a round and even then facilitate a retake.
Whew. LA Tech Blue get through that round. They survive and thrive, and now Niner Esports will have a lot of weight on their shoulders after the losses they faced successively. They're going to pick up the operator once again. Bit of a glass cannon, not fully though. Only soft armor in hands. Precise didn't find the success they wanted off the tour de force, but now with everyone else having a rifle, they can play a little bit safer, a little bit farther back, and just bide for time. Spike will be left in the transition period and through Spices for the side of LA Tech. That will give them the freedom, if needed, to rotate over to that B site. But considering we're already seeing J Crew make their way over through Spices, theoretically, or back through Cavern into the A site, it may just be an A-sided push out from LA Tech, as they will take that one loss of life and then wait for theoretically 20 to 30 seconds, I would say here, Dallas, as long as they don't give anything up to bait out that they are in fact leaving. But Lazy being so far forward only gets them to trade, and I think that's going to be it for LA Tech as they now move over to B.
You got to travel in pairs here, and I mean, we're seeing those notes being taken already. We're going ahead and seeing these double allocation of players, the ideology to know that somebody else is going to be there. You can't just expect these one-on-ones to go in a certain direction unless you meet someone of alert. But already with 2 players going in sensed out, and then you hear the feet stomping, you know they're going to make a rotation across the way and see if they can exec onto B, and it's just not going to happen. So Niners finally accumulating themselves one more round on the board, hitting that minimum of 3 we'd like to go ahead and kind of call out, but still LA Tech, they're going ahead and kind of leading with those 2 rounds. Are they ever going to hit an eco? Are they ever going to be in a bad spot? Quite frankly, if they lose this round or at least make it expensive, they could be. But, well, Niners, they got to do it again. They got to run it back. They got to do the same exact thing once more, and they have to do it successfully. Not using any of those ultimates in the last round. This may be a good call to go ahead and pop into a situation like this, especially for those players that have those ultimates. Go ahead and back up and just delay time and just create chaos on the site that's being executed on the moment you hear that spike go down.
Jurassic will be the last on the rotates, right behind Spike. You do lead 1 player towards Spices and 1 who is over inside of Shower, so you'll have a little bit of help in the rear. But as of the current moment, LA Tech Blue, they made a little bit of noise and they didn't like what they saw, and they really want to test the limits back on B once they know success has been lost on the A side after a couple of attempts. They'll go back to what works. 5 players in on the B side, and it has already gotten them a kill. Inashar has been forced back and away from Elbow. Sky Smokes cutting down the distance makes it even easier. The rush out in the flank from Hookah from Knight nets them a kill to J Crew. Showstopper sent by Soul. It's honestly a miracle it connects, but it does, and Precise picks up after the fact as well. A 1v2 trapped in between. Where can you go? You have to fall all the way back through Hookah, but you've got the lineup with the Molly. Way too soon though, and Knight has to wait. 33 HP, time over the top. Sarko can't get the second swing. They go for it though, and Precise will stick the defuse. I think there is enough time there will clearly be.
A couple seconds, yeah.
Precise. Honestly, I don't think he should have stuck that Dallas before. He had 45 HP, I think, before the Molly. I think he would have died before it got to half anyways.
Yeah, there's a lot of different variables that take place in a way like that, but when you see it that close, I don't know. I mean, if you had the ultimate, you definitely just kind of go ahead and stick at the half, but that's just not the case there. It comes down to how many players are really present at the time, and knowing you're in a 2v1, they're playing numbers, so good calls with them. I mean, they got the round they were looking for, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day. We talk about Niners and kind of that 5-round spree we saw from LA Tech. Maybe it's just Niners. kind of already being in a hole a little bit there towards the start of the game and just kind of difficult to dig themselves out. But at least they're kind of reaching that equilibrium in terms of a round-to-round basis. If you go ahead and ignore the scoreboard a little bit, knowing that one-round delta is not going to set them back too far, and 8-4 is being locked out here, especially if you find initial trades going in your direction. And, well, quite frankly, if they do, you can already call this round almost 5-5, knowing that Anishar is sitting on 4. Go ahead, find that 5th. You've earned it.
When you know you have control over position towards Octagon, you don't want to give it up. That's exactly what you do. Play smart, get those kills, and now hold on to sight, because you know Lazy's trapped in between. You have the flank,
Yes,
it's an
sir.
ace. Easy pickings. Little bit of a turbulence down the straight, but nothing too bad for them. That ties things up. In the dominant spree we saw from LA Tech, I joked about it looking like they very well could go 6 in a row after the success they had in round 2. Everything is falling apart, and we're very well looking at a point where Niner Esports have shown they can contend. We very well may get a 6-6 half if LA Tech can get themselves around in these next 2. But with the losses they've been facing, I think they're going to be stuck into a thrifty either this round or the next, and I think it's this one. A stinger on the board. Sheriffs, they do not have the option they were really hoping for previously, and since the last 3 rounds have failed them, why not test the A site once again and just hope these close range weapons can do a lot more work inside shower, where I think most of their trouble has been found.
You already know what's on risk here. You already know the next round you have more ultimates available to you, but as it stands right now, you have players to work off of as well. So huge chance here for Niner Esports going to accumulate a couple kills. We've seen LA Tech only really manage 1. I mean, considering the guns you're working with, that's a win in its own book. A very big hold coming out from 3 players alone to go up against 5, but it's an anti-eco. You can't really freak out too much. It comes down to this round specifically. You got ahead and you earned the showstopper on that attacking side, so you have a legitimate entry strategy, and you got a lot of post-plant utility. So really the only winning formula here is get your Rays in there, see what they can just throw out, and hopefully at least get a singular kill, and just let that player be exec onto site while you just get a follow-up post-plant, because that Viper's Pit, that's going to stall for plenty of time, because we talked about how slow these retakes have been. You have an orbital barrage to the back of the map. You have a secondary player to go ahead and preside with assistance, but instead we're seeing already the orbital barrage being invested towards U-Haul. We see the showstopper once again using what it needs to do, and if you see nobody on the site, you go and make that call and say they gotta be in showers, and we'll Precise let them know.
First blood, Precise. Spike, though, was just moments away from going down. The Viper's Pit makes them think they may still be there, but the rotate! TP taken, and Knight takes down 3, hunting for more, but denied of it just barely by Jeeton. It's a 1v5, and Ace was required. They've gotten their 1, and they'll need to get 4 more after the fact. This looks like a very easy 7-5 scoreline for the side of Niner Esports, and it will be a big comeback in return after LA Tech took their 5, but they were not out of the woodworks, and they just buried the ending of that first half.
I'm at a loss of words, frankly. You had full A site control. The only thing you know you didn't have was showers, and there's 3 players more than likely just funneled in there. You're playing post plant. You get everybody except your Viper to just kind of play off site, work for the post plant, and then just be a menace. Protect the back of the map. But every single inch they fought for, invested ultimates for, and even in the Viper's Pit, which, the orbital barrage I can understand. Showstopper I can understand. You can do those from a distance. You have to have eye-to-eye contact for that Viper's Pit. You have to be standing on the territory you've already earned, indicating that you had that space, and you give it up. You knew a flank was coming through regardless, because the Brimstone ult.
Yeah. There's so many little things we see that will dog on so darn heavy. But it's because it's so nice to listen back to, right, guys? Mostly if you're VOD reviewing to talk about the breakdown for what went wrong and what you could do next time. Well, chances are in a 99 percentile, you'll never have this exact scenario occur, but you can get something close and you can think and remember back upon this and say, okay, last time we did this, we failed due to this. What can we do to recover? And right now, this round at least, seems impossible to cover for LA Tech. Lazy's in a 1v4, caught off guard up through B long, takes down Anishar despite the obstacle of not having the weapon out, is getting pressured in from both ends. One towards the fountain side, Precise will fall back. Second one is still Sika over towards Octagon, and Lazy just knows that this is all for naught. They get blinded perfectly They don't detonate the guiding light early. They let it slay against the wall and hope that they turn away too fast, and they did. Great round on the attack for Niner Esports to pick up the pistol round like they did in the first half.
It looked like it turned around for a second. I seriously thought that we saw like Jeeton pull off I don't know, a little drifting circle with the guiding light there. I didn't like it went back as an accident going right back out, but I'm assuming it more than likely just to get caught on the wall because that happens all the time, unfortunately. But regardless, though, sitting at 8-5, Niner Esports once again earning themselves a round. We have to kind of go back and look at that 5-round deficit they were working off of. I mean, already that was a spree accumulated for LA Tech, and that may be their only real sense of success here if they don't really pick it up soon, considering how difficult it looks like for them to go ahead and find those rounds underway. Once the Niners got their confidence, they can really fight. But here, once again, confidence isn't there, but more likely the utility and the weapons aren't there as a backup. So with Precise holding down the back of the map, it's doing a very good job of at least making the calls and not just hitting the shots as well. You can go ahead and say safely that you kind of have this one in the wraps.
Precise has a great angle to continue to hold them back, but you know where they are. You know where they have to come from, and LA Tech Blue face the inevitable loss that's facing them. Jeeton good for one. A second of Anishar could fall their way, but Anishar tucks around the corner just enough to only lose 5 more HP in the second fire, and they'll hold on to 4 out of the 5 of the weapons they brought forward, and now just 1 away from double digits. The checkpoint or chokehold as we highlight it. And it does truly seem like LA Tech have not been as involved as they should have been, if at all, in the last 6, now it looks like 7 rounds in a row.
This is insane. I mean, just a very big stance from Niners. I talked about them when it came around to the defensive side. Their retakes were a little bit slow, but I mean, they definitely polished that up to them a lot, quite frankly. And it was kind of concerning initially, thinking that, okay, if they don't establish this confidence on defense for the retakes, how are they going to go for these executes when it comes around to the attacking side? What are they going to be able to do there if they're just afraid to push and really fight for that control of the map? And, well, quite frankly, thankfully, better yet, it hasn't been a problem for them. They've woken up a little bit, understood what's required of them, and they're finally hitting their shots and really playing this war of attrition to a T. So, good stance for them. Already so many rounds back to back to back. And with a couple of rifle buys out of their team in this one, it could be doable depending on who you really find.
Jeeton's holding in the backside of Tube. You need a first blood. And I'm honestly shocked to see LA Tech completely forego the option of defending up close in Octagon. That's where your initiator holds a lot of their prowess, but being in the back of sight means you've got so many variables for being taken down. It's exactly that. Why are you inside of Tube playing to the side towards Cubby? You have 2 angles to defend from, left side of Tube as well as out through Hookah. You turn too many eyes towards you and it creates way too many problems, giving the site seemingly for free to Niner Esports. Only one person taking any lick of damage, and LA Tech want to save for this round because they know even in a 3v5, Dallas, which is insane in my opinion, they're saving the 3 weapons. The 2 players won't even be able to buy next round. What's the idea here? You'll have to essentially save up half your team anyways. Why not commit to the bit and play for it in the next round for the 11th loss, hopefully for Niner Esports?
I don't think so.
I'm not quite sure at this point. They just knock out another. It's just... couldn't tell you. I told you with the gun buys, it was definitely doable. And even considering that, I mean, LA Tech didn't really seem all those ready for those rifles to come into play. They just didn't know what was coming at them. So considering that another round being accumulated here by Niners, not only to hit those 5 to completely answer for those 5s initially kind of by LA Tech, but now going ahead and executing a 3-0 start where you know if Thrifty's going to be inbound or an eco to some extent isn't going to be available, and knowing that regardless with the 3 guns in hand that LA Tech not only do they have to win this round, if they really want to hold on to it, they get to hold on to a lot of these guns in the meantime because it's going to be really expensive. You see the money, and if you see the first round finally be made for them, they're going to get barely anything as a win.
Lazy holding up on top of truck. LA Tech Blue know they're at a huge loss, probably of words as well as just ideas about what's going to work out for them. And when you have Jurassic, a very important Viper for your team, that's a toxic screen to cut sight lines, that snake bites to try to get them away from sight and buy time on the escape out through Hookah, this B site just became infinitely more manageable for a hit. And Niner Esports only have 1 player to actually cut through. Yes, it's J Crew. They're exceptionally talented. but no one has rotated yet for the side of LA Tech. They're just now doing it 15 seconds after the fact that they had lost that person. It seems unbelievable, but they send 2, which makes up somewhat for that loss. And with the kill over on the A sites, I'd expect that Brim to almost rotate the other way if it wasn't for Sika stepping out of Octagon and giving the kill to J Crew to open things up. And Jean, how long did it take for you to trade out that Vandal?
A little slow here, only 20 seconds. You know what's going on over in B. You can make the call for the rotate. You're seeing the tension come out. You're seeing the post plant Brim go down. Already just looking for a little bit of the stall. With 10 seconds remaining, all you have to do, quite frankly, is get this kill off. But when you can't get the read on the spots, can't find the initial kills needed, it all comes down to Lazy, who's just trapped in U-Haul. Can't do much here. A good read coming out. Once again, delaying the time on the defensive side, or in the post plant better on the attack, but still. Same difference and really same scenario we're used to. Player trying to go ahead and retake their U-Haul, not going to work out all that well. Hookah doesn't really work out either. And with that latter being the reality, you're swinging into 2 players who just know exactly what's going on. 11-5 for the Niners.
And despite the fact, Dallas, don't be Photoshop. Despite the fact, Dallas, that Niner Esports theoretically played that poorly in terms of timing, they wouldn't know. It's purely unlucky for that factor. They could have swung into a site in a 3v1 and taken down J Crew and just been done with the objective much sooner. They pushed into an equal 3-on-3. They didn't have the rotating player there just yet. They still come away with the win in a very dominant fashion, despite even coming into a situation they were 2v3 on site because J Crew snuck down Sika. How is LA Tech just brooding these positions on site, losing out on these theoretical advantages they've been given, and not taking advantage of the architecture in the retakes, nor are they taking advantage, it seems like, half of their utility, because it seems like there's so much still remaining in the back pocket that's not being utilized. And it wasn't even feel like it was being totally utilized on the attack past that 7th round that came, the last round that came in favor for LA Tech. Play into the B site though, Dallas and Niner Esports. I think they're willing to just burn this one home and just send it through.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that would really be saving grace for LA Tech to be the likes of the ultimates here coming on the field, and just, I don't know if those are going to be ready for you. Considering the tour de force being employed in a round like this in a 2v3 scenario, and knowing that we've seen a lot of defensive passivity when it comes around for these retakes and a lot of time being accumulated. You don't even have the guns. You're going to have this running gun ideology to say we can rush whatever we need to for these needed kills. And there you go. Go ahead and force one up. That's the Brimstone knockdown, or excuse me, the Viper, better yet. But I mean, still, regardless, you don't have too much post play. The orbital barrage is in play, and Incendiary is still active on the field. So you got to tap that thing. You got to force this Brimstone's hand and let somebody else watch the angle on this chamber that's somewhere else around the map. But you don't know who's where. You don't know quite really what's going on. And even when you smoke it up, you don't have an opportunity to really answer for these shots being taken at you.
J Crew holding up on top of 2, peeks into the angle for Precise.
Yeah.
And Precise will take down the crotch-plated Jurassic. Didn't need much damage to get the job done. Probably aim for the head, but, you know, if you aim center mass, it gets the job done as well. Niner Esports get into the last round, or I should probably say possible last round, but the way this is going, it's probably last round since LA Tech have been struggling. A timeout being called for them can give them ideas to talk things through, but this would have been much better utilized, Dallas, 4 or even 5 rounds prior, considering just how many rounds they've strung together in a loss. LA Tech has been at their wits' end for success, and it's better to call it sooner rather than later.
I would say closer to 3. I mean, knowing that, I mean, you're sitting on 12. 5 rounds ago was the very beginning of the half, so not much you could have really...
7 rounds ago. Oh, yeah. No, I guess you're right.
Nothing much you could have
3
really
rounds ago.
But, I mean, still, I mean, your point's made. Regardless, I mean, it's the map point kind of thing that's really getting me. I mean, you're sitting at this late in the game. This better be one hell of a wake-up call for this team, and this better be God tier IGLing that's in the making with the kind of minute that's given to you. If you can find, you know, 7 rounds up a singular minute of talk time, who knows? We have seen the strands be made before in some regard, but keep in mind, Niner Esports didn't only do theirs in terms of every single rifle round. They kind of split it up evenly. Well, literally evenly now with 5 on each side of the halves, but still, that latter half of that first half and that second quarter of the game, you saw them just go ahead and accumulate so many rounds that answer you almost flawlessly that, I mean, if we see that same 5 matched, it'll be impressive. It'll still be 10-12, but you still got 3 more to go. Or better yet, at that point, sitting on that point, you're going to get 5.
Fire in the hole!
Sarko, very dangerous spots. I'm honestly kind of shocked that didn't kill, but it will not matter. Knight gets a 2 for free, it seems, and J Crew will only fall after finding 1. It's a 4v1 in full effect. Jurassic forced to rotate, and this is the worst case scenario. It's an easy pickings for Knight taking down their doppelganger. 13-5, the final score line. LA Tech is not out of the SEL just yet, though.
Nope.
They do face the loss against Niner Esports, but they will have another chance to stay in this. But today may be their last day, considering they have another matchup in the lower brackets coming up next.
Yeah, so I mean, not only just in terms of how we talk about it with series and best of 3s, but still better yet best of 1s. We look at these kind of earlier stages of playoffs. We can already see how things are working out for you. You're looking to lock things down, and you can't let that first map really beat you too much, considering that you do have another opponent waiting for you in the lower bracket, and you really can't freak out about the result there. Knowing that already these teams have accomplished so much, as I mentioned, 4-1, 5-0. You were very close in the regular season. You both made your run to the upper bracket in the LCQ, so you can't really go ahead and beat yourself down too much, because you can lose everything here today. That entire season just completely dusted off the result of one bad map here to start the day.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders now, and the team has had expectations coming into this one, and they've seemingly been blown out of proportion the other way. You can collect yourselves here for this next, little bit of a break we have, and maybe give them a little bit longer to get coordinated as well. They'll have to go through map bans and everything, so not too sure how long it'll truly be, but it's supposed to start at around 7 CST, which I'm expecting is everyone's probably time zone here for the SEL because it's the Southeastern League, but probably around 7. So they got to get 10 minutes to get map bans through, talk things out. That's, 10 timeouts worth of time. And they're going to need 10 timeouts worth of time because their 1 timeout worth of time gave them absolutely nothing. It was called a bit too late. We'll have to see. They're coming up next, though. You'll have UKY Blue facing off against LA Tech. Will LA Tech come out with a win after the big loss they faced just now? Will they hold on strong and come through to take the lower bracket by storm?
I had the roses, but never your heart. I lived a dream, now I'm in the dark. Oh, 'cause you ran away and took my life, and so ripped me to pieces, just let it all go. My heart was on fire, but you let me burn.